I'm not old enough to have to start.
Would you go ahead and recite the pledge with me? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll reflect that we do have a quorum. The only one missing is Andy Patrick. Why don't we go ahead with the ambulance first? You've got a paper in front of you, a couple of pages in front of you.
Well, you got the same reports as always. September month, or the September numbers were better than last year. We had relatively busy the last 2 months. 162, you see it there at the top is our 911s. En route to arrive is still under a minute. They're just reading down the list. Nothing major out of the ordinary. A couple fire standbys, a couple DOAs. But our call volume between the 911s and transfers kept us pretty busy for the month. The second page is our destinations. You guys can look at that just as well as I can read it. So, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for.
What was the call? The only big change I see is the number of emergent transfers. Seems like you had a lot more this month than you've been averaging.
Yeah, a lot of that has been COVID related, honestly.
Okay.
So we have been, past few days haven't been horrible, but there for a while, we were doing 1, if not 2 or 3 COVID a day. We had a pretty big uptick there for a while. But then just general, anything that is hospital to hospital is an emergent transfer. So there just has been a increased incidence of actual sick patients over the last month.
Okay.
Our orthopedic surgeon was out for 14 days on vacation too, so that increases our transfers.
Sure.
We don't have anybody to take him to the operating room.
Our new truck is still in the process of getting licensed. We're waiting on one last piece of paperwork from the state, and that'll be ready to roll. So we are up to 4 operational ambulances. Then one is what we're going to call a mobile education unit. But in a mass casualty incident, it is able to transport patients. So there are 5 operational ambulances.
Questions?
On the 4 that you use have operational, are they manned or just 3 of them?
So 3 at all times. Last night I actually took a transfer to St. Louis. In that case, I did have a crew available to staff that 4th truck if we would need it.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of the times we do have people available that could staff that 4th truck, but it's going to be a as call-in needed basis. It's not scheduled.
So on a day-to-day basis, you have 3 manned all the
3
time?
24 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
good.
Your transfer is based on mileage, further away, more it costs, the transfer.
There is a
Like the one in
Everything.
St. Louis would be quite a bit, huh?
Everything is, that's how ambulances build, a load fee plus a per loaded mile charge. So we don't get a charge for empty ambulance, only when the patient's in the ambulance.
Just like hauling cattle.
Pretty much, no load, no money.
Only chances of a backhaul are about 0.
Minimal.
How do you hope?
Okay.
Budgets were turned in. Our board will be receiving our, my budget for this department. Only change, a couple changes. They did pull our new station off of the budget and said that that would be a special project because it would be, a significant cost. It wasn't something that we were gonna budget for, so we, are still looking at building a new station.
Is that across the street from the hospital?
It's across the street from your house. We can turn them sirens straight on and blare them.
Boy, I hope so.
Help me turn down the siren when you go by.
No, we don't know where, there's a
It's
couple
to
of
be
prospects
Didn't
of
they buy
where.
the house across from the hospital? I thought
They,
that was
they
gonna be
bought the
the station.
houses across from the hospital, they bought the land across from Crestwood on the corner, and they bought the Verona Mall recently.
What?
Verona Mall.
Where Dollar General
Where
used to
Dollar
be.
General used to be.
Okay.
So there's some possibilities for station potentials on all of those, and Adam and I will be instrumental in working through the project managers on determining what's gonna be best for that going forward. The other thing is I did budget for a full-time manager. So there will be an EMS manager posting as long as the board approves the budget. I still manage ER and EMS and security, and 2 24-hour departments is a little taxing. And so I've done, as you guys well probably understand, done a good job of growing new manager candidates. It will be a posted job, but they will probably go off my recommendation. My recommendation is and will continue to be that Adam be the manager of EMS going forward.
Will you guys vote on that?
No, you do not get a
So
vote
not
on that.
everyone else, not you.
So unless you have any major issues with that, please see me afterwards, we can talk about it, but that's something that we budgeted for 2021, and I do think that we will look that way going forward.
It's not really a huge deal, and especially now, but the coroner is renting space out, and you know, it's right attached to your ambulance bay area in the hospital. If you guys build a new facility, you know, we'll call it an ambulance bay, whatever term you use, will we still be able to maintain some space in there somewhere for the coroner's office? Cause that's worked out great from our end.
He
and I
is
think
not
it
at
is.
all anywhere close to what
Yeah.
they operate out of.
Okay,
They
So that is-
operate, coroner is attached to, 2 garage bays. That
Okay.
the maintenance crew keeps their tractors and stuff
oh,
in.
okay, so that's,
We are in the pole barn behind the
okay,
hospital,
okay,
and then their crew quarters is a
True.
mobile home in front of that, which was a temporary fix at best. And there'd been, you know, some talk of doing a bunch of different things, but it looks like we're gonna move forward with building our own crew station.
So if you guys do see, right now, due to COVID's circumstances, we have separated our crews out a little bit. So if you guys see trucks, there's Wendy's, there's a church next to Wendy's, and there's a house kind of behind that church. If you guys see trucks parked back there, we are keeping a crew in that house during evening hours, just to kind of socially distance our crews.
yeah, so your crews aren't all in the same place, so they don't all get
I
sick
saw
at
2
once.
of them there. I saw one there yesterday when I was sitting in line, and then another one pulled in, and I wondered what
Yeah.
they were doing.
We go out there and clean that. That's part of our daily cleaning chores. So
Yeah.
you'll,
You and a keg.
We hope so. No, it just, there's not enough, way to keep them all safe. And to keep, if I have somebody who has a cough today and then tomorrow they're sick, you guys know with staffing and how tight it is. If one truck goes out, how difficult it is to get that type of staffing, especially on 14 days worth of quarantine. So we're just trying to keep everybody as separate as possible, to keep everybody safe.
And I was just looking at the months, you've been here about a year and a quarter. Everything going fine, everything on our end, is there anything that we need to do that's, I mean, are you happy with the way everything's going? I think we are.
As long as you guys are,
Yeah.
it's working well for us.
operationally, we're
Turn down
sound
the
and growing.
siren when you come past my house.
I put out a memo to everyone to make sure.
I know you're,
I gave them your address
I know
specifically.
you're revved up a little bit.
5 years.
I'm keeping
They're
track
gonna
of
turn
that,
it
though.
down.
I'm keeping track. of
We
it.
do have, I wrote for a grant earlier in the year and was awarded it for education, interdepartmental education in our facility. So it's fire, EMS, police, and sheriff's department, and it is called a tactical emergency care casualty course. And with COVID, it got pushed off, it got rescheduled for the end of the month. So out at the fire training center at the end of the month for 2 days, there will be about 19 of us, all from all different agencies, training together on how to respond to shooting incidents, stabbing incidents, different things. Should an officer get hurt? Should an EMS person get hurt? How do we care for one another while we're on the scene and things? And it is a certified course through the National Association of EMT. So that is all paid for by a grant that I wrote for. And so if you guys are out and about, come see us. We'll all be together for a little bit.
One last thing, we are doing an EMR class, emergency medical responder class. You probably know it's first responder, going on right now. We have made a significant investment into our education supplies, so that class is ongoing. through the end of the month. It's getting ready to wrap up here in the next month or so. But as soon as that kind of winds down, we are ramping up an EMT course. Orientation for that is at the end of the month, so we will pretty much be doing education for the general public from here on out, hopefully on a rolling basis.
Is Jesse involved in that anymore?
He does the scheduling
No,
still.
he's still involved, and I don't know whether he's.
He just is an assistant to me and does
Yeah.
tasks that I assign to him.
Hmm.
And he's aware that if the manager position is approved by the board and that job gets posted, he's welcome to apply for it. If he doesn't apply for it, because I won't necessarily be the manager, I won't need an assistant, he may not have, he'll always be on our roster
Okay.
as a medic because he keeps his medic license
Yeah.
current. And he has to work so many hours in order to keep his medic license current through the state.
Does HIPAA allow you to have the names of the people that are positive for COVID?
We do not know that, no.
What, do you have addresses and where they live? Like if you make a run,
It's supposed to
So,
go to the 911
And the
center.
911 has all of that.
okay.
As of right now,
But what they tell you,
so as of right now, if they usually dispatch by symptoms. And if those symptoms meet a certain criteria, what our recommendation is they ask the person if they're able to meet us outside, so we don't have to go into the house, but they do not tell us. If the patient tells 911, yes, they're COVID positive, then they will relay that information, but
okay.
unless the person calling actually tells 911, no, then we do not know that
By
information.
HIPAA, you can get the names, correct?
Correct.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Thank you,
Thank you.
folks. Notice they're both sealed. We have 2 insurance bids for liability insurance. They came in according to Hoyle and everything else. Okay. First one is ICRMT. And it looks like that proposal is $283,473. And it says, please note, proposal does not meet specifications. Do you have a comment on that?
You wanna get them both over,
Yeah.
and we can go over.
The next one we have is from Liberty.
I have a question. Both these from Diamond Brothers?
Next one is from Liberty Mutual.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, $308,107.
What was the first one?
283 something.
The name of it?
Oh, the name.
I am.
The same, the one we have right now,
Oh,
ICRMT.
So if you guys are ready, I can go ahead and start making some comments on both of these. So we went to every market in the state of Illinois that would possibly run a municipality that we have access to, including our competitor Gallagher. And these are the only 2 companies that would bid on your guys' insurance this year. ICRMT made some changes at renewal that we were unhappy with. The 2 main changes being, 1, they increased the law deductible from $25,000 to $50,000. 2, they dropped your excess coverage or your umbrella coverage from $9 million to $2 million. So basically what that means is if you have a claim in your auto or your liability or law enforcement liability or any of those things and it eats up your limit, you have an umbrella that goes over that. Before you had $9 million of coverage over that, ICRMT is only able to provide $2 million now. So Liberty, aside from a few minor things that we can talk about, they were able to match what you currently have. So they have that $9 million over the top of everything. If I were, in my opinion, the Liberty proposal is the better proposal based on that. It's up to what you guys feel comfortable with. One more thing to mention real quick. ICRMT is offering a grant for COVID. The price that I gave you does not include that grant. So if you guys renew with them at the $280, you'll get, I don't have the exact, it's roughly $8,500 back. So you can take that out of the premium. It's not factored into the figures I gave you.
The difference in the umbrellas, that because of the lawsuit that we paid out over the years?
That is, there were a lot of factors into that. One of them, obviously, all the problems with the jail, they were getting fixed, but just in general, they were still not comfortable with everything. And two, it is because of claims. And three, not so much just you guys, but in general, law enforcement claims they're absolutely getting destroyed right now. So they just, that's the best they could offer. I went back to them, Donnie went back to them, we fought as hard as we could, and that was the most they were willing to do. I tried to find a market to go over the top of ICRMT's policy, so you could keep ICRMT, and then they would basically do another 7 million over their 2 million, and that was $100,000 extra.
That's choice.
I think I have the number on top of my head, but what was the premiums this current year?
So everything I'm talking about we're not talking about work comp right now, so this
Right.
is just for the package. So
Right, just for the comparables.
The premium last year, it's not apples to apples, so let me explain it. So the total premium paid last year, not counting work comp, was $195,821. The reason that's not the same though, you guys paid for roughly 4 to 5 months of jail premium. So it's hard to determine, roughly 4 to 5 months was 34,000, so you can tack on roughly 40 to 50,000 more for an accurate figure if you're doing apples to apples. Some minor differences, and I don't know how much detail do you want me to go into at this meeting. There are a few minor differences here and there, but the key ones that we mentioned are the excess or the umbrella, and that law enforcement deductible at 50,000 that's steep.
Is this kind of typical statewide for increase in
An
liability?
increase in jail coverage, 100%. That's going up fast. In general, I'm getting a lot of excess, and anything that has to do with law enforcement's going up. So like excess going over your law enforcement liability, all that's going up.
So we're looking at, just ballpark. I think your pen's leaking that you
I think
wanted
it
to,
is.
Bill.
It was okay or you got tested.
Well, maybe that's my
I
problem
think
then.
it is.
But, we're looking at roughly 100,000 a year just on the jail.
Really rough. I don't have that portion specifically. I have
Really rough.
the law. Actually, no, I lied. Liberty Mutual's law enforcement professional liability.
Sorry, John.
So that's going to be like claims that happen,
Jail plus,
sheriff's department, all that. That portion is actually only 20,813, but the premises liability at the jail, I don't have that portion broken out, but it is factored into your general liability premium, which is 88,000. So that's all your liability combined. So I guess your law enforcement and your liability for everything is about 108,000. That does include the jail.
So we're talking about a $40,000 increase in liability insurance
Yes.
between this year and last year. Okay.
Well, it'd be a little, depending on which one you go with.
Mhm. Yeah,
The-
right.
There,
I was taking the cheapest.
Oh, yeah,
Cheap.
40, but then Liberty Mutual is,
Yeah, 60.
let's see,
there's an argument to be made for either, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because ICRMT's umbrella works a little different than Liberty's. To try to make this as short and sweet as possible, ICRMT has a 2 million umbrella over every line of coverage, so over auto, over liability, over professional liability and jail liability. Liberty Mutual's is a 9 million over everything. So what that means is if you have one claim that goes 2 million over, ICRMT will cover that. They don't have I'm trying to decide, they don't have like an aggregate limit, so like you have 2 million over each line of coverage, it's not a 2 million aggregate. Whereas the Liberty Mutual proposal, if you have a $9 million claim on one line of coverage that goes into the umbrella, your umbrella's done for all lines for the whole year. That's super, I don't know if that made sense or not.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did to me, anyway.
Yeah, me too.
and you say 2 million on each, how many different ones do we have? You know what I mean?
So general liability would have a $2 million, law enforcement liability is a $2 million, auto has a $2 million, and public officials has a $2 million. So no one claim can go over 2 million, but if you use your 2 million on a public officials claim, you still have your 2 million in the other spots. Liberty Mutual offers 9 million for everything, so again, that's still, I mean, it's a lot more.
So you could have 3 million in one and
On
4
Liberty-
million in another and.
Yes, you could, but you can't exceed 9 million. It
Right,
goes,
that's what I mean.
yes, you're
Yes.
exactly right.
But if you have 2 million in one category for, whatever the one with the
I
initials,
am,
then you
I
can't
see.
have, then you're done
With that line of
with
coverage,
that line of
yes.
coverage.
Is Liberty Mutual on the law enforcement 25,000 deductible?
Yes. And, I don't know, I mean, we're already talking about a massive increase, but you're not stuck to that. We can talk about other deductibles too. They're not gonna, the 25,000, they can quote out lower deductibles if you're interested.
I thought it says 50,000, is that the other?
That's your current, they jump, you have 25,000 currently, your current company jumped to 50,
I
but
see.
Liberty quoted the 25.
Okay.
now, Liberty is 25 just on law enforcement, everything else is 5.
No. Property, that's one of the small changes. Your property deductible with Liberty is gonna be 10,000 instead of the 5,000. However, they can match your auto deductibles of 2,500 currently. Also, the other, like the liability and on all your regular deductibles that were 25, they've matched those. Except for property and auto, which is 10 and 2,500.
Okay, what about IC?
ICRMT is gonna match what they had before, so you're gonna have, let's see, just regular general liability, not like a law enforcement claim, is 5,000. You have the 50,000 on law enforcement. You have a 25,000 on public officials, and all those are matched aside from the $25,000 for law enforcement. Auto is 2,500.
Probably a stupid question, but I'll ask those all the time anyway, but if we take the higher bid, does the company with the lower bid, can they come back and file a lawsuit or anything?
Mhm.
Okay. It's a stupid
No,
question,
and,
right?
and they don't actually meet
I
specifications,
see, okay,
but we
That
can
makes
waive
sense.
specifications the
Yeah.
way we wrote the bid.
I see,
Yeah, you guys are more than welcome to pick whichever one you're comfortable with. It's
Okay.
not,
okay.
Not a stupid question at all.
not at all.
Okay, no, I thought it might. I ask you a lot of those. Right, love?
If you wanna think it's a stupid question, we'll let you.
Yeah, we'll let you.
Okay.
More questions?
Stupid is, stupid does.
So,
One more thing to note with Liberty Mutual. You had more payment options with ICRMT in the past. Liberty Mutual offers, we have two options. We either paid in full or we can premium finance it, which would mean we'd have to go to a bank and get basically a loan, which we can do that internally. Whereas ICRMT let you pay quarterly or monthly. That's all they offer.
So you have to pay interest on the
Yes.
Liberty?
If you've got a loan, it's already paid in full, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any, axes or daggers on our head from Liberty like there has been from ICM or T?
No. Liberty will, as new business, they'll come in and do some inspections and things like that. However, I don't see, I've said this before, I don't see any looming issues that would be a problem. I mean, you guys have completely revamped the jail, everything looks good. They'll come in and inspect things, but if they change anything, I'd be shocked.
So the premium is not cut in stone until they come in and check?
No, premium is set in stone,
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
so the bid for the current company would be 274,000. Could you take that 8,500 off?
Let me tell you exactly how much, it wasn't 85, sorry, it was 8161, so
Okay.
275, 312 is the total bid less the, premium credit that you guys would get.
Say that again.
Sorry, 275,312. And you only,
Plus that 8,500, 8,000 credit?
no, I'm
That's
sorry.
that's
Yeah.
taking that credit.
They bid at 283,473, there's a 8,161
Yeah,
credit,
right.
so it drops it to 275,312.
So it's 275 and Liberty Mutual is 308.
Yes,
So that's 33,000.
Mhm.
and basically for that 33,000, the biggest thing that you're gonna be paying for is the 9 million umbrella limit.
Oh, yeah, but I'm looking at the, law enforcement deductible going from 25 to
Yeah,
50,000.
You have one claim,
One lawsuit and you're all in the same ballpark.
exactly,
Which we've
you're
had
exactly
one or
right.
two every year.
Yeah.
If you have two, you're way over at that point, so.
Yeah.
Is there a reason more companies didn't bid because of our?
Every
past
company
history?
that declined because of the lost history.
Yeah.
This is something that eventually will improve, I would hope, as
Well,
long
I
as the
hope
claims
so,
stay down.
too, yeah.
Um,
Just paid out big one.
Not counting the work comp, I just did it, this isn't spot on, but your loss ratio is 1.25, which means for every $1 of premium paid, 1.25 is either paid to a claim or in a reserve.
And that reserve is killing us right now, because we've got
It is.
one that's
Pending.
pending that for quite a bit of money.
The total paid, not counting reserves, is
Yeah,
$770,000
we
in
just
5
paid
years.
out a big one not very long ago.
How long does that go back?
5 years.
Yeah.
It could go back further for the company, but typically the industry standard is 5 years.
What are our deadlines on accepting this? Because we, probably should have an insurance meeting before we do something and,
I could
Our
bind
chairman's
this
not here.
up until the date, like December 1st. So it's not like we don't have to move on any of this.
December 1st is gonna come up awful damn quick.
Yes.
The only issue,
I'm gonna say, really, sorry.
you find, what, Dan?
I say, really, I don't see much of a reason for having a meeting. I mean, everything seems to be cut and dry, right?
The only reason that we'd have to do that, pardon me, is because of the levy. We're gonna have to increase that levy to cover what we're talking about.
And that's before November 1st.
Do you want to talk about work comp today? I brought it with me if you want to talk about it.
Go ahead.
The work comp, we bid it last year, and the closest bid was between 100 and 120, so it wasn't even close. Last year, you guys paid $63,194. This year, the renewal is at $75,935, but there's over $300,000 in payroll additional in the sheriff's department, so that's the majority of that. It's not, all the rates went up, some of them down slightly, but the majority of that increase is because of the additional payroll. And you guys get a grant for that every year. I don't have that, I forgot to write that down, but there's another grant coming for IPRF.
Do you know, and this is unrelated, I wish Jeff was here to answer it, but I was looking through the budget and the health department is really upping their payroll, it looks like, just from the budget. Do we cover their work comp or is that state? Cause that's a never land as far as
Well,
funding.
I send this to the treasurer's office and they respond with the numbers. We have 759,000 and change in physicians payroll and 168,000 and change in public health payroll. There could be some of these other codes that are also to the health department, but those are the two that I don't know what else those would be for.
Yeah.
So, you said the 300,000 increase in the sheriff's funds, that's based off of the budget year? The
Yes. That's
proposal for next year?
just, cause this gets confused sometimes. This is not off budgeted payroll, this is off actual payroll. So, these numbers are gonna be, I mean, it's projected payroll, which I guess would be the same as budgeted, but these are all gonna be audited.
For 2021?
Yes,
Okay.
this is, when we ask the, treasurer's office, they give us projection
Yeah.
for 1/1 to 1/1 of next year.
Yeah, okay. And you were talking about workman's, some grant,
Every year,
is that
Yes,
safety grant or whatever that,
yes.
yeah?
Yeah.
And we get that no matter which company we,
Well, that's through IPRF,
that's, yes, that
Illinois
is-
Public Risk Fund.
they do that, IPRF does that, so if you were to move work off companies, which was not feasible last time we looked into that,
okay,
you wouldn't have that.
all right.
levy wise, and that's, let's see here. Looks like we'd have to go, one of them would be, force, we'd have to increase the levy if we went with Liberty, and if we went with, the one we have right now, it'd be 40.
What page are you on?
Let's see, hang on.
Oh, there aren't page
Should be near the
numbers on
back.
that.
Hang on. There's no page numbers. Yeah, there is, 34.
Oh, what, in the budget? Yes, there are page numbers in the budget. I misspoke.
That's
John's.
okay. It's a bogey.
No, you're, yeah, I was looking at the levy too, and there weren't page numbers, so.
So, the 350 would go to either 310 or 378, and I'm having that in the airport. If you wanna know the discrepancy, we have an airport, coverage that's separate. It's about $2,500 to $3,000. So, and then the, work comp would go from 70 to 80. We dropped the, county insurance down to 5, because that's just kind of a catch-all. Attorneys would stay the same at 10, and then we'd have a co-deductible expense of 25.
So when does this have to be done before the,
Next, by the 4th or 5th of November.
So on this page 34, liability insurance would basically go to 308 if we go with Liberty.
Well, no, that page would go up to 340. The total would go up to 340 instead of the current 400.
I'm talking about the specifically liability insurance.
Oh, yeah, it'd go to, well, hang on, I lost that page now. Yeah, I made it 310.
Oh, well, maybe I've got an old one or something.
Well, it
Mine
was
says-
230,
Yeah,
see?
Yeah, all right,
It'd go from 230 to 310.
310. Bottom, down at the bottom, what is it gonna be?
470,
470,
and then the other company would be 440.
yeah. With the current one.
No, yes,
The
with
current
the current one,
company.
yes,
With the
yes,
current company.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Questions? Because it's time to ask them.
And I'm more than happy to, if you guys wanna set an insurance committee or something, we can definitely do that.
I just don't know if we need to buy, bylaws and all that good fun stuff.
No, we don't.
Okay.
No. I mean, and we have the luxury, like, unlike some county boards, they have 24 or 20 or 23 or 27 people. I mean, there's 7 of us here,
Yeah.
so it makes it a little easier to wield that.
You have your budget in front of you. One question I have on page 25.
Hang on, I gotta undo it again.
No, I'm sorry.
No, no problem.
And I had this question, it seems like a fair place to bring it up.
All right.
The raise and increase on contact tracing and administrative salaries and clerical. I would think that's primarily staff increases, but I don't know that, and would that affect our work comp?
This is the health department. Do you
Yeah.
even handle the health department? Is that included?
It's included, yeah.
All right.
So, what's your question? Work comp goes specifically on payroll. It does not matter if you have 100 employees or 10 employees, if it's 100,000 payroll, it goes on 100,000 payroll.
Well, and that's where health department gets dicey because most of their payroll is from the state, not from us. And So we get to see their proposed budget numbers on what they're getting from the state,
Okay.
but it's not increasing the share that we have to pay in. I'm just trying to figure, and what I don't know, I mean, they're not here, is if they are jumping their payroll that much, where's the work comp lie?
Well, their
You
bottom,
know, their salaries aren't coming out of our pockets, but
Now, you know, and we found this out not the hard way, but all of the other departments, because there is these three, specific funds, toward, retirement, and FICA, all covers the whole county. We can't ask them for reimbursement based on that. I mean, we're doing it for the whole county.
but by them, I mean, there's substantial increases there.
and
Right.
some of that, I am sure, is because it wasn't put in the 2020 budget, because when we passed that, nobody had any clue there was gonna be
Well,
the
and they're going
COVID,
from
you know. but-
1.3 million to 2.1 million. An $800,000 increase. And there's quite a bit in salary. I mean, like clerical went from 60,000 to 336,000.
Administrative salary from 150,000 to 293,000.
So because of that,
I'll find out.
And contact tracing from 0, which, I mean, we didn't have in 2020, to 817,000. I mean, what would that be outside of man hours? You know, maybe there is something I don't know about, but
that affects the IMRF, Social Security, and workman's
Yeah.
comp.
It
And we
affects
have
them all.
to adjust, you know, that's money that we have to levy.
yeah.
Wow, that's a big increase.
That's a lot
That
of
makes sense. We got a meeting coming up, I guess I could bring it up if you want me to.
Well, we can't wait that long. I'm gonna have to call Janet.
Well,
Yeah,
2 weeks.
you got a copy there, but if you wanna look at it, you know,
No, it's,
and
yeah,
administrative salary.
something wrong somewhere.
I was looking for any other salary line items that went the other way. In other words, did they reassign this from another thing? And I don't see it.
Not
but they-
that I could find, but
Okay, you know what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's,
And are the feds paying that,
understand.
are they paying that extra amount? You know, are they paying that .0765 and the .062, is that part of the grant? That would be retirement and, you know, Social Security, SS and SSI. I don't know the answer to that.
I think you only get like 1.7 million on tax money, is that correct? Health Department?
They get 220,000.
Okay. Knew it wasn't a lot compared to what the.
On property tax
Right.
money
Right,
from
right,
us,
property tax,
right.
Yeah,
Right. Rest of it is from the state.
yeah,
basically.
state or the feds. That's an excellent question. I don't have the answer to it.
And
But I'm sure that came through in what Pam gave you for figures. I'm surprised it's not higher than 300,000, but maybe they're not using that all now. Maybe that's gonna come into play later.
And
300.
maybe they're planning on picking it up. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine that's a little higher up in public health, and, you know, he said the counties have been virtually given a blank slate from the state, saying, you know, we've gotta take care of it and the money's there. And, you know, hopefully they would think of that increasing our expenses, but it would be nice to know.
And I can find out for sure where the figure that they gave me came from, at least maybe that will help.
Well, she may not even know of planned increases. They're just supposing off of what we're doing right now. And if
Yeah.
you project that for an entire 26 payrolls, that's
Yeah.
what they're coming up with.
And I'm supposing it's labor, just because I don't know what else it'd be, but maybe they're,
Can't be
buying an
enough.
$800,000 computer system to contact trace, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who controls their salary increases?
You
We got
guys,
nothing.
You do, the board.
you do.
It's never been brought up, so I don't know.
I think you.
Yeah, I would think there'd be 20 more people running around the building by looking at the budget numbers.
No, if I know
When's your next meeting?
of.
November?
Yeah,
Mm,
well, one every, third week of every month now,
mm,
because of the COVID.
mhm.
It'll be coming up pretty soon.
Well, yeah, you ought to have one next week then.
Well, we need answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, short of calling Janet right now,
Yeah, so
which
you
I
can
think we can
contact
call
her?
her a little bit.
You want me to bring it up?
I'll take care of it, that way I'll know.
Good.
Any thoughts about the insurance, back to that?
Well, I'm inclined to think that the extra we're getting from Liberty Mutual's worth the money. Is my gut feeling.
Yeah, I have to agree.
I would do.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's,
And that's what your recommendation is? also?
If I were picking, it would be that one for sure,
Yeah.
just because again, one claim, and you've already made up that difference, and you've got the extra 9 million on
The
top.
claim pending too, it's gonna be.
the comfort level of one over the other is substantial. Well, we'll adjust the levy to reflect that. I'm sure that you'd be available for anybody who had a question, though.
Anytime, yep, you guys can call my cell. I'll leave some cards.
All right.
Are you gonna have to adjust the levies on like social security and?
Well, I may
all
have
these-
to, yeah,
All these increases, especially with the,
depending on what Janet tells me, yeah.
that's kind of a shocker, I hadn't looked at that.
Say, I don't usually look at that much because that's handled by another board, but
Right.
that's,
There's those if anybody wants some. You guys have any other questions for me or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, my cell phone's on there, so you guys can just call that number anytime and I'll answer.
I need help Liberty, with Liberty Mutual on,
I write the majority of the schools in Paris with them.
okay.
So, I mean, they're a great company. They do a lot of work with municipalities, like I said, for schools, they're the #1 option. They've got a lot more resources because they're a national company. I mean, we can talk about all those. I've got handouts and stuff for everything that they have available, so.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, guys.
thanks, Austin.
Thank
take care,
you.
Austin.
You sign on the other.
Hey, Janet, I had a question, if you've got a minute, I'm in a board meeting. I just noticed something that might be helpful, but we're talking about quite a large increase in payroll that I can see here. Now, is that through grants? Now, are we going to have to pay the FICA out of our funds? Or is that out of your grant? Or the retirement? Okay, nobody's full-time, so that knocks out that. What about work comp though? Work comp, it's gonna really increase work comp, tort, and FICA. Well, technically we can't. And we didn't know, how much is your payroll actually gonna increase, do you think? Well, we hadn't either, John brought it up, and we're all going, well, we just wanted to make sure. See, we see that you have no income coming in for contact tracing. Now you're showing 817,000 in that amount of money, and we're thinking, is that is that gonna be? Okay, so would you take a wild shot at telling me how many people do you think you're gonna add over the year would be helpful? And how many hours a week would they be working? Okay. All right, and that's for how many weeks? Just for good for now until some? Okay, May of 21, okay, so a half a year roughly. All right, and no, I understand. No, and we can't bill you for something, you know, we've gotta be careful about that. How much an hour are they being paid? 20. Okay, all right, I appreciate it. But that's it for increases in payroll? All right, thanks so much. You wait a minute, 1
I have a
second.
question. When I was in quarantine, they would call me, but they said from the state. Does she pay that, or does the state pay that when they call me every day? And
Who pays for, who calls, like, when Dan
it
was
says
in?
state of Illinois.
They say it's the state of Illinois calling Dan to make sure he's still in quarantine. Is that you guys? It's through your. All right. Very good. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, that's a max amount that they're gonna use. They figured they're gonna hire 6 to 7 people from now till May. They'll be part-time. So if they work 20, she said 25 to 29 hours, so you figure 29 hours times, let's see, 13 times 20. So we'd be talking $7,500 in new payroll.
So
Nothing
the
major.
state's not paying for that, they're paying for it.
Well, we be responsible for paying the stuff, the FICA on that, is what I'm
Okay.
saying, okay? Go ahead, Carl, I saw you going.
Well, they just doubled their administrative salary, and you're saying it's only $7,500.
I'm just talking what they put in a max on stuff.
Okay.
I'll talk to her later then. She said the payrolls are not going to change
Okay.
except for those 7 people.
Okay, all right.
So I don't know what she's included in that, I don't know.
It's a big number.
Well,
She's gonna have a really nice desk.
See, if I used that kind of
About $7,000.
logic, I would have put in $280,000 for us getting it from the feds, and we're not gonna get that much,
Right.
so. At any rate, I'll come up and think about this and then email her a more exacting thing, but the payroll cost on this would be $576.81, which we could more than absorb.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm glad you looked at that, because I hadn't even looked at that portion. So we need to talk about the budget.
You get your question answered.
You know,
We've got several big items to talk about today.
Don't forget to answer his question about,
Oh, yes, that is,
It's a 312 number, and I say state, and they call me every day.
she says that's one of her contact tracers.
Okay.
That's what she said.
So they always say state of Illinois calling, and it's 312 number. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay,
I,
Somebody ought to check on you all and tell them,
I know.
county jail.
Well, I'm gonna make a guess and say the state provided them a bunch of cell phones
Could
to
be.
give you the contact tracer and
I just wondered
they've all
if
got a
Do we have
Springfield
to pay
number.
for it or not, that's what I was asking.
I think the answer is yes.
Trust me,
They've
Dan, you're
hired,
paying for it.
they've got 2 contract tracers, they're bringing 2 more on, and then they're gonna bring another 2 or 3 more on. Okay, that's the way she explained it to me.
I'll ask them next week or something.
I don't know what you wanna do with the budget. I mean, you guys have had it, you wanna go through it line item by line item. Obviously, we're gonna have to adjust the tort budget, and we're gonna have to increase the levy. November, what is it, 5th?
Whatever the first Wednesday is, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, the 4th.
Fourth, yeah.
Is when we need to lay it over for inspection, and then it's finally passed, I think, on the 25th or 4th.
Yes.
So that's where we sit on that. We did increase, and it is affected by the task force. The committee is recommending that we execute, and you have in your packet, a drug task force special crimes unit intergovernmental agreement, which gives us an additional,
He's going.
which would give us an 8 count in the sheriff's department. We're currently at 6, trying to hire 7, and we'd be going up to 8 to create that. So we increased the budget, the sheriff's department budget, to reflect an additional person for that task force. We increased the car or vehicle amount to reflect that. We included an increase in the health insurance. We'd already increased equipment, so that wasn't necessary. So those items were increased and are reflected in the budget. That's a major change that, since you had a copy of the budget here a week or 2 ago.
Well, okay, so.
Yeah, if you got a new copy, when, did we,
That's the most recent copy.
all right.
The one that you printed, oh,
What
okay.
you got and what I brought, everybody has the most
Okay.
recent copy.
Well, that's fine, I just picked mine up a few days ago, so.
The one you sent me in the mail, is that
Yes,
the
sir.
most recent?
That's, yes.
Okay.
And that reflects the law enforcement chief.
Yeah, that explains a couple of the questions I had.
Well, let's open it up for questions.
So, said he's gonna pay part and we pay part.
We pay for our own, they pay for their own,
Okay.
okay? But it does formalize the agreement that we're cooperating and that we're dealing with it. Do you wanna expound on that a little bit? Carl, do you have anything?
I guess we were approached, we had a meeting here a few weeks ago with the city and the sheriff and talked about it. And because of the increase in crime in the county, we all thought it was a good idea to form this unit. Where there's gonna be 2 officers, one from the city and one from the county. They're gonna work on crimes, drugs, whatever, anywhere in the county. You know, if there's a problem in Chrisman, they'll work it in Chrisman. If there's a problem in Hume, they'll work it there. And they're basically to take care of these major crimes. Originally, they wanted 3 detectives, and we decided on 2. And I know Jeff's been talking with the mayor about it and everything, and everybody's agreeable to it. I think there's 4 primary things that they were looking at. It was drugs, sex crimes. I know they, Do what?
abuse.
Sex abuse, yes. You know, they said there's a lot more, they're noticing on this past 6 months to year, a lot more serious violent crimes. Of course, a lot of it goes back to drugs.
And COVID.
Yeah. So, you know, I think this is something that's needed to, because currently, right now, there isn't a whole lot of stuff being done with this stuff. No one's, you know, we don't have a detective. The city's kind of been overwhelmed and they don't have the time to work on the drugs, so it's a definite need.
So this will be an increase in staff for both, not an identification of an existing member, but an increase in staff.
I can just speak, I guess, for us. We're gonna increase our staff by one, and I think the person that they're gonna put in it is a current member of the sheriff's department, but by taking him from the road and putting him in this, we're gonna hire another road officer to replace that. In addition to another additional road officer. So actually, we'll have 2 additional road officers in place over what we currently have, and then we'll have that one person in this current.
Is this a
or
full-time
proposed
position?
unit. It's a full-time position.
Right.
Devil's advocate, that is a huge staff increase we have done in the last year in the sheriff's department. You know,
It is.
Jay, Derek, 2 road officers, plus a deputy, you know, you're looking at.
Plus jailers.
Sailors.
Yeah. The jailers I'm not really counting because we had them, well,
No,
we've
we-
increased the numbers.
We had 4
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, we were down to 4.
correctional officers, now we got 8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, full-time.
Yes.
Correct.
yeah, I mean, that's,
And if you think back to some of our hearings on the referendum, we said that we were committed to making positive steps
Yeah.
and taking positive steps in law enforcement, and as well as the jail.
yeah,
So-
well, it's, you know, you're also looking at the referendum, I mean, let's say we're looking at hopefully $1 million a year tax increase, nice round number. You know, that's taking an awfully huge chunk of that and going to staff for immediate rather than trying to use it on more long-term solutions.
I
Use
noticed
a
in-
jail or something else.
In the budget on page 3, you've got capital improvement. That is that leftover, not leftover, that's our annual commitment to socking away what we need to for long-term commitment to building, whether it be improving what we got, whatever we wind up doing.
So that 405,000 is
Right.
coming out of the safety tax.
That's correct. If that's, yes, Danny?
might be a little soon, but have we ever thought about maybe starting to get an architect or something in the process of building a new jail?
Yes,
Or is
sir.
that a possibility?
We announced, 6 weeks ago, we got that grant for $165,000 through Coles County. And we're gonna talk about an issue here about, hiring a coordinator planner to work with that from our closely. And, we're asking the board for permission to spend up to $29,000 in services this next year.
I think it looked good for us, because people still wanna know, are we gonna build a new jail? You know, we've done nothing really to say or plan on, so this might be some way of kinda helping out in the community.
Well, we've done quite a bit, actually. I mean, that grant was the first one given out in Illinois ever. And it has direct bearing on the jail.
Right,
And looking at doing surveys to the community, getting together groups and organizations so that we make one decision collectively eventually that will benefit our community, our county long-term.
yeah.
Not just the city, not just Paris, not Kansas, I mean, everybody, for a long-term solution for the next 25, 30 years, we hope.
And,
So we've done a lot so far, like we promised.
yeah, and the grant is a good start. But I also think, you know, what you're saying and going to the timing of the issue, I think we're a lot better off if we let the money go into an account for an improvement and have the cash and then hire an architect rather than hiring an architect based on cash that we should have coming in the future months. You know, which just when that started, that necessitates.
This
Can't get the
process
word
through the
right,
grant is
the
gonna give us
timeline.
options and set us up with an architect. I
Yeah.
mean, the culmination of that deal is going, here, board, here are your options.
Yeah,
Here's an architect that we've reviewed, here's choices of architect, and here's how you can move forward.
but it also gives us a nice time lag,
Right.
because we'll get that in 6 months and hopefully we'll have some money to,
By the way, we got our first check from the state of Illinois on the sales tax. And it was $88,636.71. And that was $4,000 ahead of last year. Sales tax has not lagged in this county for some reason. I think because
I'm
of
guessing COVID,
people are staying at home
yeah.
rather than going to other communities to do their shopping.
We have people from other communities coming here. They have more attraction for some reason. You see lots of Indiana plates in that parking lot.
They got bounty paper towels there, they probably don't have them somewhere else.
Did we answer your question?
No.
Did we?
Yes, it did, appreciate it.
John, do you have more questions about the budget? Not that. this
Not
is it.
really, yeah, I just had a couple nitpicky little things that I don't think we need to get into them. I think I pretty well have them figured out.
Carl, do you have anything? Bill?
Nope.
Lisa? Okay. I did get an answer from, Michael Martin on what that's for. The project is a streetscape project for sidewalks, street lighting, and landscaping in an area from Union Street South to the old high school area. In the meeting I was involved in, even the area was still under discussion as going forward south of the high school. It may be more in the area that Prospect and the jail are in and south around the square. They don't have a dollar amount, they're trying to hammer that out and they'll have it for us later, what they're talking about spending. So does that give you an idea what we're supporting? And I have a copy of that, John, for you. In fact, I have a copy for everybody, okay? Thank you. Now, one of the items on the agenda is item number 7 under highway, and that's the support of commitment, local funds for a phase 0 community facilitator. That's the coordinator planner I'm talking about, that we can integrate into the process so that we can stay as closely informed as possible. Think of them as a consultant, and they would spend, or we would spend on them a figure not to exceed $29,000, and that's in the budget. I want to make sure you were aware that we were going to talk about that, or that was an issue to be voted on tomorrow. Then the ambulance, the final ordinance on the ambulance, since nobody, there was no petition, none presented with any amount, but it had to be over 50% of the voters and landowners. That was not proposed, or that did not appear, so we have to pass the final resolution for that ambulance service area number 2. Let's see, Augie, do you want to talk about the referenda on the consolidated election for separation from Cook County?
Yes, I'd be glad to. It was brought to my attention not too long ago that the resolution that the board passed back in March to separate from Cook County as part of the rest of the other counties downstate, that was inadvertently missed and is not on this year's ballot for the general election. It's going to be on the April election, because I've already talked to my vendor about it, and he's already put it into his system as they prepare our ballot. Now, I'm not gonna sit and make excuses. It got overlooked because we had two pretty important referendums that we were running in March anyway, and the hearings, and I think it, quite honestly, it got overlooked.
How many counties is it on for this November, do you know?
I don't know.
Because I understood that most of them had it.
I can kind of answer that question. I signed the petition, and the person that passed the petition said they had to have 750,000 signatures in order to put it on the ballot. That may not answer all your questions for its counties, but
Well, that would be for a statewide ballot, and
right,
it was
right,
never going to be
right.
on a statewide ballot. It was going to be on a county by county basis.
Well, it will now appear on the next ballot in what, March?
April.
April, sorry,
April 6th.
sorry about that. And while you're talking, you do have the holiday schedule in your packet. Might look that over. We have fire protections.
Oh, I got a question on number 12, talking about holidays. That, no, that's not a county holiday,
Which one?
November 3rd, Election Day.
It is a state holiday.
Okay, but it's not one of the 13 county holidays, so that's not gonna affect the union. You say it's a state holiday, but is the county courthouse gonna be closed?
Yes, except for the county clerk's office doing elections. According to Judge Garst, he's the one that gave me the administrative order. I assume, and he said, well, we won't be there.
Well, then how does that affect what you're asking is how does that affect our union contract?
Right.
Because it's not in the union contract.
It was in the law that was passed,
Yeah.
along with all the other stuff they stuck in it.
So with union, since it's not in the contract, would not be considered a holiday for them. Of course, they're open 24/7 anyway, so it
But there
should,
would be no holiday pay.
yeah.
I will, follow it up with Don and Pam. Okay? I'm sure we'll hear about that.
So
I imagine.
the holiday, is it the same, the holiday's the same as current year?
Yeah, well, yes. It looks basically like it did last year, which Lisa, the Supreme Court in the state says, here's the holidays that we're going to recognize, they be closed, the courts will be closed. So the board follows that, with the addition, this has been years ago, before our tenure, that the board always, they included an extra one, which is Good Friday. And then a couple years ago, it was decided that we switched out, if you will, Martin Luther King Jr. observation in exchange for having Christmas Eve off. Because so many of the people had dinners out of town, family things and whatnot, and so that still is all in place.
I was kind of surprised at this December 23rd date on here.
Yeah.
Well, and that's because Christmas falls on a Saturday. So the 25th falls on a Saturday in December, but the state is observing it on Friday, the 24th. But whether, last year and this year, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day fall in the week.
Well, how are we supposed to handle everybody? Because I'm confused. Why isn't the circuit, don't they have other things and the other offices? That I know the courts are gonna be closed, but why are the rest of our offices closed?
You're talking for election day.
Yeah,
Oh, you're on election day.
I'm going back to election day.
Okay,
Why are we,
I don't know, Judge Garsh is the one that gave that to me.
okay, but that means, what does it say?
Well, I don't have,
I mean, does
It
it
basically
say the
says that-
courthouse is closed?
it says the state's gonna observe it as a holiday. I haven't,
Okay,
I'll have to get it, let me get it out and look at it.
So if the
I'm
state
sorry.
says it's all day, I would assume the courthouse
There it
would be
is.
closed.
How you gonna get in the vote?
No, the courthouse is counting.
And he said other than that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we had a copy in our, I'm sorry, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
it was emailed and there's a copy in your board packet.
So we're gonna have to pay everybody holiday pay that day then?
Therefore, it is ordered that the circuit court and court facilities likewise shall be closed in observance of Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, in Edgar County, Illinois.
So that doesn't mean the rest of the offices are closed.
Yes, but
Well,
in the courthouse.
Jeff, I don't know. I know it was a state law that was passed, but as far as anybody else, I don't know. He didn't mention it, we've never talked about that. And I guess because I'm gonna be open, but I don't know about the people across the street and the county and the airport and, I don't know.
I would assume, I mean, it
I
reads,
see.
pardon me, Augie,
It's just the courts that are closed.
you know, which we've had on other holidays before, where just the court's closed, but the rest.
It's, yeah, it says, therefore it is ordered that the circuit court and court facilities shall be closed.
Right.
So I read that as everything else is open.
Yeah, that's about what you said.
That's,
wasn't it?
yeah, that's what it reads.
Exactly. So, no holiday pay.
So court security is unavailable that day. Is there any benefit or any reason to having what would be the same security on a election day?
Generally, on election day, we've never had court security.
Never had a
Well,
reason.
in the
Never had
evening
any.
time when the ballots come in, they always had a deputy up there.
Ex-
Right.
Just
in the
in
evening,
the
right.
evening time.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of
But
people
this
come
year,
in and watch the-
I'm not doing
you know,
that.
so.
I'm not opening the courthouse at, when the polls close at 7, then we're closed.
You did that last year, didn't
No, I had it open,
you? Okay.
but with the advancement in all the technology and the COVID-19 stuff, I felt it was in the best interest. I just gonna lock the door at 7 o'clock and,
Last year you didn't have the board, right? You had something on.
correct,
screen.
didn't have the board, right. Been putting it,
Well, the primary, you didn't have the courthouse open, did you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Lord, we got a meeting and then got time for lunch.
Got a vacuum out in my car. That's a
Why?
priority today.
Why don't you vacuum mine out while you're at it?
I haven't got that much time.
We don't
They
have.
don't make
big enough-
those size of vacuums that I can ever see, but John,
I don't think vacuums, cow poop and all that, does it?
need an axe handle and a scoop shovel vacuum your,
so to
that's a work truck.
finish up on your
The,
question.
go ahead, which question was that?
Well, you missed it, but the results will be posted online as soon as we get those tallied. So it'll be just as quick, if not quicker, than standing in the rotunda.
The treasurer's office and the highway office, everybody's planning on being open. So,
What do you want, Aaron? What do you
It
want?
says,
What do you want?
the Edgar County Board adopted a previous scheduled holidays, but the state of Illinois has designated Election Day as an additional state holiday for non-election personnel for this
Well,
year
that's-
only.
Okay, well then, we better do it. I didn't have that, so.
Well,
Missed that part.
talk to Mark
Okay,
and read this, because there's kind of confusing.
Depends on which paragraph you read,
Yeah,
what you,
yeah,
how you
'cause
interpret
the
it.
first one you read me was, it's,
Sounded pretty simple, then you read that one, it sounded real simple, and neither one of them are simple, really.
Yeah, quit reading those cards.
Are you saying a lawyer wrote it?
yeah, the chief judge is actually the
Thank you for
Why
not
not?
quoting me.
Judge Schick over in Charleston is one that
Charleston, that
signed and
explains
did
it.
this.
all right, we'll get clarification from Mark. What do you, I read the thing to him where everybody understands what's going on. Is
Yeah,
that what
we
you're
want,
here
we
for?
want to do an executive session if possible.
For,
Personnel.
We're not even near done, and I've
Oh, I
got,
thought you
I've
were.
got to be, no, we're not done. And I'm gonna have to leave here pretty quick.
We gotta make it, Elmer made it noon.
I think it's important we at least get you for 5 minutes, the entire board.
We can do it.
All right, we'll do it.
But
The
you're not
only,
done, I thought you were almost done.
no, we're not, we could be. I don't know what does,
I don't
I've
see
got the-
anything else.
I've got the windmill ordinance to hand out, but we've got to tweak it a little bit more. This'll come up the next 2 study sessions. Here, I'm sorry. We're planning on action on that at the November 4th or 5th meeting.
You can get one on 1 mil. Okay.
Everybody got one? All right. So read that. It's simply amendments to the current one. It's been amended before. It was passed in '09, amended in 10, and then we're looking to amend it here this year. Obviously, there's a lot of technology has changed. John and I have been doing a lot of research, talking to people, and this is what we've come up with that doesn't box us in. Obviously, the ordinance is passed, but there's another procedure in public hearing. If we do happen to have somebody or some company want to put in a wind farm, they would have to go through permitting, siting, and that would all, they'd have to make application, and those applications will be the telling part of it, and what kind of, how they approach it, and then we can, quite frankly, put in further restrictions on how they do it, okay?
The Farm Bureau still working on this with you?
Who?
Farm Bureau?
Yes.
Yes,
Still working
yeah,
on it.
they're gonna get a copy of this. We've got a couple of tweaks to make on it, but nothing major. The bulk of what it is there, just a couple of things that we needed.
Can I
Sure,
ask
Jeff.
just one real quick question on that while I'm thinking of it? I can call you later. On the decommissioning, we've changed the depth around, and I was thinking we were gonna go from 6 back up to 5. Am I remembering that wrong? Cause we haven't read it for, that everything needs to be buried.
Yeah, well, we were gonna go to 5. Is it still 6 in there?
Okay, no, it has 4.
Oh, it should be 5.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I need to tweak that.
okay.
Should be 5.
That's what I had on the top of my head, but I hadn't looked it back up.
Yeah,
So just one quick clarification then, so we have an ordinance that has some measurable restrictions, and then we get somebody who's interested, and then we can tell them we restrict it more?
well, in other words, for example, decommissioning. We can put certain requirements on decommissioning, see what they're coming up with, their
So we're
plan.
not tied to what we have in our ordinance?
Let's say somebody wants to build a wind farm. They have to bring us a proposal that matches every aspect in the ordinance. We still have to approve the construction of said wind farm. And if we want to add some stuff, Yeah,
if we have 1650 minimum from a primary, that can't change.
Well, that's what I was thinking, once you
That
put it in
can't
writing,
change.
you're
That can't
set.
change. But the parts on decommissioning could change. Technology's gonna change. The state of Illinois keeps changing the laws on decommissioning. Quite frankly, we don't want to be bound by some of the stuff that puts it all on the county. We don't wanna be the referee at the end
Sure,
yeah.
and have the taxpayers stuck with a bunch of stuff. We want them, if you'll notice in decommissioning, it says it has to be measurable, it has to be in the deed and committed to by everybody involved. And so we need to not get caught in the vice. That was mainly what I was talking
Okay.
about, yes.
And the big factor that is not in here that can be added or changed on approval is community infrastructure improvement. You know, a lot of times they build a wind farm, the wind company says, you know, we will donate $250,000 to the local fire department so they can buy a ladder truck able to reach the top, you know, things like that. They do a lot of things to help work with the community to help it fit in. And we don't have that in the ordinance. It's that would be negotiated and met before we ever.
Dare talk to the people that have them in barns and Hume, up to they,
not Hume, Williamsport.
We've talked to them everywhere.
so they think it's all right, or?
Well, some
Yeah,
do,
they
some
complain.
don't.
If it-
Depends
it's
on
okay
which
if it's-
end of
it's
the
okay
stick
if
they're
it's not
on.
on your property.
You know, if you've been stirring the poop with the stick, one end's fine, one end's not.
How much do you get paid, just offhand, to have one of those? Is it
Well, I
per
think-
month, per year?
See, that's
Total.
negotiated,
They can't speak once they sign the contract.
I said, okay,
It's confidential.
okay. That's all.
yes, Carl.
I haven't read it, but is there road damage?
That's another thing that they have to come up with the road use plan and everything revolving around that. If
I know
it's-
there's all kinds of trouble and.
Mhm.
Right,
Oh,
Right.
yes, sometimes I hear it every day I'm up there.
Yeah.
But
I
they
saw one going
just, they
through
pay for
Paris.
everything.
yeah.
I mean, they say, you fix it, we'll pay the bill. And
I
my son
wish we
said they've never
Have that
been.
with Ameren.
Yeah,
Yeah, he said they're better than them.
no,
And that's something that you can't really negotiate ahead of time on
Right.
this, other than to stipulate we have one until you
right.
put the windmills, you can't figure out what roads you're gonna be driving on to get there.
I like the formulas, that gives you some comfort on that.
They put
Yeah,
signs,
they're-
but they don't.
One of the
apply.
big strides we've made in this is, you know, protecting all of the primary structures. Now, are they protected as good as they should be? Depends on who you talk to. But we're going from 1,000 to 1,650, or 3 times the tip height. We're, you know, which is certainly a lot more stringent than what we have in area counties around us. So, you know, I'm sure we'll be criticized by some people and not by others. We'll just have to do the best we can. So, do we want to move? Go ahead, Carl. I'll get them, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
All right.
Second,
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed?
okay, I heard.
We were pretty good timing.
Yeah, enough blood.
Thanks, Augie. The only thing I can tell you is look over some of this stuff. If you've got more questions on any of it, we'll ask tomorrow, anytime on budget between now and November 5th or 6th or 4th, whatever it is, we need to adjust the budget, okay? Based upon what your questions are. I did want to note that we've got a double payment put in there on the clock tower.
Oh, we still working on that?
No, but we're gonna owe on it.
No, okay.
And we've had a few years where we haven't put in everything that we should.
I'm at the clock.
The other thing you should know is that we currently have approved, and it's in the pipeline, almost $119,000 in COVID reimbursements for, most of it's for payroll, but some of it's for other things. The Jill out at ESDA is getting together an application to receive monies for all of the plexiglass, all of the stuff we've done to the courthouse, everything that we've done in supplies to get it reimbursed. And then, of course, from time to time, we still have more people that are affected in their payroll and having to stay home. So we have till the 31st of December to put in for that reimbursement. So Josh is doing that, it's doing a fine job. So is Jill. So we're coordinating, not trying to miss any dimes. And that also includes some of the court security. That's included in the 119 right now.
Okay, I was wondering, cause I noticed you have 70,000 for court security, and I think we get reimbursed 50,000 from the
Right.
court security fund, and the other 20 is coming through the,
We'll see.
okay, hopefully is coming through the.
Any other, I mean, there's a lot of questions. We've covered a lot of ground here today. Sorry, it seems to be squished together, but do the best we can. Okay, Andy will not be here on Wednesday either, but he should be back on Thursday for our tour. Obviously, nobody's required to come, but if you want to, sure like to see you there. Okay? Motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.